All right, everybody. Thank you for attending today's SIG Azure meeting. It is Wednesday, October 4th, 2017. If you want to follow along after the fact, the meeting minutes and agenda are located at bit.ly/sig-azure. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen so that you all can see the agenda as we go through this. So can you confirm that you can see that okay?
Yep, okay. Looks good.
Great. All right. So let's start with work in progress. So this is a incomplete list right now, but I'm hoping we can add to it if there's anything else out there. But let's start with what we know. So there's the Azure Key Vault integration being handled by Colette from Microsoft. Right now, we don't have a current status on this, but he said he will attend the meeting shortly, so we may come back and revisit this. Right now, I believe this is slated for 1.9. So we'll see if that becomes true or not. Anybody have any other input on this, or you want to talk about it before we go back? Okay, next big thing is the Azure Cloud Provider breakout. I was just talking to Rob a moment ago about this. Essentially, this is the issue tracking the work from the Microsoft side. There's a lot to do, and I'm not completely sure I know what the structure is right now around how this work is going to get done. I have been unfortunately quite preoccupied with the 1.8 release, so there is not as much bandwidth for me to keep a close eye on this while that was happening, since it was punted to 1.9. So anybody on the call want to speak to this? Because this is actually the Azure part of it. There's a greater initiative also in the features repo for this about the work for other cloud providers too, which I know Rob is tracking.
It might not be a bad idea to kind of link or reference this PR with the out-of-band issue, the out-of-repo cloud provider. I can.
Yeah, if you paste it, that'd be great.
Is.
All right, let me do that. Copy. Okay, cool. There we go. Now those two are tied together. That's good. Yeah, so I think this is one of those things that. So my feeling on this is I'm very concerned about the effort overall because it is so large. 1.9 is probably going to be a very short release cycle with all the holiday stuff thrown in for good measure. So. I believe our ability to meet this commitment is at risk. Thoughts on that, Rob? Because you're just sort of seeing the full gamut here.
I don't think you're alone. I'm not seeing yet a whole lot of movement on the other cloud providers to head this route. I'm going to poke AWS on Friday and see what their plans are related to this. And as if you look at that main issue, most of the work seems to be on that have actually done this out of process provider stuff has been like DigitalOcean and some others that were already not in Kubernetes.
Yeah.
But I know there's they had mentioned that in that same issue that GCE had a PR for it. For reference, I can put that one in here as well. But I would say that I have not seen a whole lot of motion on that directly.
Yeah, it's hard because it's really a burden for the people that are in tree, because we're then what do you do with all the in-flight development around the cloud provider and bug fixes and stuff? I mean, it's both a blessing and a curse because we can do this stuff. We can do a lot of the enhancements that we wanted to do and have a better release cadence. But on the same hand, it's a burden to have the duplication of effort. So
yeah, it is.
Let's see.
Hey, Jason, this is Sean.
Hey, Sean.
Yeah, and already heard of one instance of a proposal for the Azure Cloud Provider getting rejected. I don't remember the circumstances, but effectively was told, straight up, like, we're not taking anything new into the Cloud Provider code. It has to go into OneLine, and the whole split out has to be taken into context.
Could you send me a link to that?
Yeah, I'll dig up some more info on that.
Okay, that would be super helpful. That is simply not accurate. So if we need to reopen the PR, we will. Yeah,
What's one way to solve the duplication of effort?
Denied. Your duplication is hereby denied. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, we'll keep revisiting this, and thanks, Rob, for taking such an interest in this. It's super helpful to have more eyes on this because, frankly, it's a huge effort, and it makes me very nervous. So more help, the more hands, the lighter the work. So, all right. So in terms of other features that we're targeting for 1.9, is there anything that anybody has out there that needs to be talked about or added to this list?
What's the dates for 1.9?
We haven't actually finalized it yet. We're either going to have a very short cycle and have it wrapped up before the holidays start, or it's going to linger on into the new year. I'm going to push very hard for it to be a short cycle so that we have some of the cleanup that should have been done in 1.8. Do you want to talk about the Azure Key Vault stuff real quick, Cal?
Yeah, so the Azure Key Vault is actually almost done. We were bending on a bug on the SDK level. That done, we discovered that the bug is not in the SDK, it's in the docs. Go figure.
Oh.
Yeah. So was this bug done? Was this bug resolved or this issue resolved? I have the code. All I need to do is some decisions around where should we create the key for the user. Or we create the key vault for the user, and we will be creating the key as well. So just some finalization. My expectation is it should be done within 2 weeks, as in this week and the next.
Okay.
Which puts us at, hold on, let me get the date. Friday 13th. That's the kind of dates I picked in this. Friday 13th.
That's the last time you get to set the feature delivery date, my friend.
So yeah, so 2 weeks ATA. I expect that the PR will be up there somewhere way earlier than this.
Okay, can you assign it to me?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Or people just to poke in it and just finalize all the code reviews. That happens generally when we do that. So
yeah, we'll also bring it up during this meeting too when that happens, so we can get more eyes on it. Good. Okay. Any other work in flight? Anybody else want to talk about stuff they're doing or stuff that we need to be tracking? Cool. So this isn't 1.9 specific, but hey, Jack, do you want to give a quick update on ACS Engine and sort of what's going on there, just so people know?
Yeah, for sure. So what we're trying to do with the current releases is hew a little bit more closely to the Kubernetes release roadmap. So we have in master right now 1.8 availability, which is pretty close along to Thursday's release. I think it was last Thursday. So that's I think the main point to announce is that we support 1.7.7, 1.6.11, and 1.8 on master, and we're pretty close to cutting a v0.8.0 release, and those will be delivered there too. So for any devs who are using ACS Engine against master, you have 1.8 power right now to go experiment and break things and matriculate improvements back into the code.
I also want to add too that those versions that you mentioned have a fix. They actually bumped the version of DNS so that the DNS mask issue is not present. So that's a pretty compelling reason to want to upgrade. Just FYI.
That is correct. Yeah, the upgrade story is still, I think, not totally complete, but for new clusters, certainly highly encouraged to use the master version of ACS Engine at this point. So you're building clusters that are resilient to that vulnerability.
Cool. Thanks so much for that. That is super helpful. All right. So PRs needing attention review. This one is, yeah, this is the sort of the commentary on this one speaks for itself. Essentially, this is a cherry pick. Ria's new to the Microsoft PM team, and she's starting to help get some of this stuff done. So, of course, we tossed her into the cherry pick buzzsaw, which Sean Knox knows all about. Yeah, so at any rate, this cherry pick opened a can of worms in the sense that it basically caused a lot of scrutiny on the original PR that's already been merged. So the feedback on the original PR is now blocking the cherry pick, which is kind of weird and painful. But so I am asking from the kindness of our hearts to anybody who feels like they can look at this and maybe address the comments that are in this PR. That would be really helpful because this is blocking some important work, and I don't know what Brendan's bandwidth is like, but the poor guy is basically doing stuff all the time. So any help we can give him to backstop this stuff would be super helpful. Yeah, so that's all I'll say about that. Just if you could look at that review, that'd be helpful. Any other PRs anybody needs us to look at in this time frame?
I think we should have a list of what need to be done on 109 from Azure perspective, because right now everything tracked, but not really with release version in mind. So if it helps, I think we should have a list of this is what needs to happen by 1.9. That way, at least people can know the deadlines of the stuff they're working on. Is this possible, helpful at first? Is it helpful? Do you think that this list will be helpful?
It could be. So looks like the only things happening in 1.9 for the most part are the stuff that you're doing and the cloud provider breakout, which is totally a mystery right now. So we don't even know what those things look like yet. So I think that once we have a better idea on that, let's try to get the next Azure meeting to have some idea what that looks like. And then by then, hopefully the 1.9 schedule will be merged and we can actually figure out what those deadlines might be and what we can commit to. Because right now, I mean, if we commit, we have no idea what this release duration is like. I mean, it may be that we just get your changes in for the Azure Key Vault, and then that's it. I mean, that may be the end of it. So I have no idea.
Okay.
But yes, that's a very good idea and a very good thing we should do. All right, so issues. I was strolling through the land of issues and ran across two different issues. They may or may not be related. I didn't do a deep analysis, but I thought maybe here somebody would be interested. But it looks like there's two people reporting separately issues with persistent volumes in the German region. So it'd be good to just take a look at those and see if that's something that needs to be looked at. There's this issue number 53226 that was reported. Looking at this, I can't tell if this was something specific to the installation or the way it was configured or ephemeral, but this looked enough like a bug that I felt like it was reasonable to bring up during the SIG meeting and take a look. So if anybody has a few spare cycles, if you could look at this and just see if this makes sense from a bug perspective or if this is ephemeral, that would be super helpful.
And for what it's worth, owner, who's also commenting on that thread, is the guy until recently was at Microsoft. He wrote all the CNI code. So he's still trying to kind of figure out what's going on.
Okay. Wow, that's cool. Okay, I didn't know that. Thanks for that. All right. Cool. So those are in flight. Release updates. You may have heard this little thing about 1.8 going out. That's done. 1.8.1 is getting teed up. So I made a note here about the DNS mask vulnerability. You can click through there and get more information about it and look at the CVE and all this stuff. So, you know, in reality, the attack surface within Kubernetes is not that high. It's pretty difficult to co-opt and exploit that. So, but still good to know, and still good to know that it was aggressively fixed. 1.90 I mentioned is getting formed up. There's a link to the timeline proposal here. If you have a strong feeling about whether it should be pushed over to the new year or if it should be wrapped up early, please comment on that that timeline. That's going to get merged relatively soon. Also, if you've ever had deep dreams of being on the release team to do something, there are definitely plenty of opportunities to do that sort of thing. And having Microsoft participation in the release team is good for the CNCF, good for the community, and good for Microsoft. So everybody's a winner there. Any other announcements about releases? Anything about ACS Engine? Anything otherwise? Any cool stuff brewing in Microsoft HQ that I don't know about? All right. Lastly, announcements. So tomorrow is going to be the announcements for the steering committee election results. That will happen at the beginning of the community meeting. And after that, we will segue into the 1.8.0 release retrospective. So there's going to be a very healthy discussion about a lot of things that went right and didn't go right. I would love to have people from our SIG representing there to share any input or ideas that you have, and at least at the very least listen and see what we can do. A lot of the churn around releases is in testing, and I think that we should consider stepping up to provide testing infrastructure for the project in some capacity. So that's something that we should look into and find out what it would take to do that. It would be great to have more fungible testing infrastructure for sure. Anybody else have any announcements, things you'd love to proclaim publicly? Your love for Kubernetes, your love for Azure, your love for Microsoft. Step up.
Any special KubeCon SIG Azure meetings or topics? Or are you guys going to be present, not present?
We're going to be there because we're sponsoring. There's not a specific SIG Azure meetup. There's very limited availability, and the word on the street is a lot of other meetings got denied, so I didn't run up against that.
Okay, thanks.
Any other stuff? All right, going once, going twice, sold. All right, everybody, have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks.